Welcome back to RC Pilots Lounge. Thanks for tuning in. You are here for our third episode. Today's guests are going to be RC Safari. We have Chloe and April with RC Safari. You might have seen them lately. They are all over the place. They are doing their thing, and we got a lot to talk about with them and something to show off as well on Chloe's end, which is exciting. Her partner in crime doesn't even know what it is yet, which I think is fantastic. With the internet, how do you even keep a secret? Who knows? So once again, we're here on the Tired Iron Aviation Facebook group, page, profile, website, place to go on the interwebs for everything RC, community, good times, and camaraderie. We're glad to have you here. I've been excited about this show for a while, and I've been checking you out, just like Jimmy Fallon, right? So it's like I've been watching some of your all's shows on Facebook, and of course I'm familiar with you already, and bummed that we didn't get a meet at Muncie for the Big Neffy show. So everybody say hello to Chloe and April with RC Safari. How you doing?
Hey guys. Hey. Thanks for having us, man. Yes.
Hey, I'm glad it worked out. You know what, I was trying to get you last week, and April, you were missing in action. What you had a little what do they call it? What do they call that when you're in prison? Work release. You just got out. I'm just kidding you. I heard you're a troublemaker, so I'm kidding. So glad to have you. I want to talk a little bit I think everybody on George's page knows who you guys are a little bit, but I've got a lot of questions for you, and we'll get to, I think, some of my famous rapid fire questions at the end if there's time left, because I think we're going to have a chock full show, especially with the surprise you've got, I think, coming on. I'm glad you guys are both together. That's nice. You don't have to switch around. But before we get plugging too quickly along, I want to get everybody who's listening who maybe doesn't know where to find you. What is your favorite place to have people come see what you guys are up to? Because you guys have been at this for a while with the RC Safari. I want to ask you how long and all that kind of stuff, but just what's the best place to contact or consume content that you two are making right now?
Well, right now we are using my personal Facebook page, and that we didn't set out to build a show. We set out to have some fun in my workshop here. And just, I've already got like 5,000 friends and 6,000 more followers, and built them up just over time. And I thought, you know what? Everybody's asking me. I haven't been on Facebook for probably 2 years. People have been asking me what I'm doing. I'm like, well, I've been doing this. And then next thing I know, pull my friend April into this. Hey, you got a camera? Yeah, can you come film me? Yeah.
Fantastic.
Here we are.
Let me ask you, how, just for, I think everybody likes to know these questions. Like, I'm fascinated by the origin story of everybody's little path in the hobby. And it goes way back sometimes to when we're little kids. But as far as this RC Safari, when was that? When did you guys come together and realize you had something you wanted to do and document?
Oh, you take that one.
Well, yeah, that's about 6 months ago, a little bit more.
Probably. Actually, I think it happened when Horizon Hobby reached out to us.
Yeah.
We were just taking pictures of my gas planes and my foam planes, and my grandfather, we were talking earlier, but my grandfather flew an AT-6. Well, I saw an advertisement on Horizon's page for a brand new foamy AT-6, and I posted on my page, oh yes, it will be mine, and I was sharing.
Nice.
So they contacted us and said, if we sent you one of these, would you mind, reviewing it and giving us your opinion of it? And I thought that was a really nice Christmas gift, and we filmed it. We had a lot of fun filming it, and we liked it. And I think I got 50 planes now. I've purchased.
That's awesome. So so was that the first time anybody had reached out to you like that And
it was amazing.
kind at that point, you're like, you look at each other like, we got something going on here, right? I mean, you guys obviously were already doing the thing in the studio, but so when did you start flying planes? Period.
Well, when I was a kid, my dad and his father were into RC planes, balsa kits. I don't know if I got them in here. Like, this is a big wing right here. This is a Skylane 182.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, 183. It's a Pika kit from the 1980s, but that's a 5th scale gas plane. And those are the kind of planes that I build with my dad, and mostly my dad. My dad's been teaching me over the years to do these kind of things, and well, we had been out of it for probably 20 years. Had some kids, got married, and all that stuff. And then one day, my dad calls me and says, hey, I got this little plane. It's called a Champ. And I'm going to have he's talking about my kids. We have the kids come over and I'm going to take them flying. So I go to pick up my kids, and they're over there flying this little Champ. This little tiny thing around in the backyard and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got the bug again. So my dad said, you should see all this foam stuff down there. I'm like, foam? Like foam planes? Like, okay, And I've got like over in that cabinet, I probably got 5-6 grand. We're talking 1990s and 1980s. Like, I got like 5 or 6 grand in, Futaba, Sirius, all the old school, like, FM channel radios and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm down to the hobby store thinking, okay, maybe I'll pick up one of these planes. I already got a radio. I don't need anything else, go down there. I take a look, and the guy shows me an apprentice. And he says, oh, no, the radio's in here. He told me about how the spread spectrum works for the new radios, and I couldn't believe, and when I say cheap, I couldn't believe how everything was so cheap. Not cheap quality, but cheap in comparison to what you have to do to build a balsa plane. And I thought, you mean out the door, I'm going to be flying within like 20 minutes with everything ready to go. He's like, mm-hmm. And sure enough, we brought it home, put it together, went out to the park, and first time taking off, it all came right back, and I was like, this is amazing. I had the best experience, and it was actually all because of that safe mode receiver that was in there. I was so nervous, I thought, this thing crashes, it's done. Yeah. That thing made me look like a pro. My dad saw that. He got on eBay the next day and ordered 3 of them, one for each of the grandkids, like immediately. Awesome. He was out there with us, and now we've all got them,
Yeah. You're how many kids you have?
I have 2 boys, 15.
Do they both fly then?
Oh,
they both fly. Are they? I think I saw it on the interwebs where they were doing the flight challenge too, the consecutive day, the tired iron challenge. Are they still doing that?
No, my kids aren't doing that. I think Steve's kids are though. Steve,
that's who I saw. That's who I saw.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
I am. I fly my UMX. I keep them. I got 3 kits set up in my garage, and I just, as soon as I get home, go out for a quick run. Done.
Nice. The Apprentice. That's a great one, and the Champ is the answer to so many people's when I ask that question. That is a great one. Mike and I did these videos a long time ago with the Champ. It was ridiculous. It was the first videos we ever did, really, as we had our YouTube channel before motion and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, the Champ. And then the Apprentice. So what about you, April? Are you flying, or are you just technical support?
Primarily my focus is technical support. I do a lot of the camera work and keep all that stuff going, and try to film what Chloe does, and when she's out there with her boys and her dad, I try to do as much as I can with that. I do have a UMX Timber. I've flown it a couple of times, and I really, really enjoy it.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I do have an Apprentice Mini.
You have a chopper now?
Yes, and I do have a chopper. So
The Mini Apprentice is fantastic, just like the big one. I had a ball with the Mini Apprentice.
Yeah. My
And you're flying a helicopter too?
But I'm sorry?
You're flying a helicopter as well?
I have not flown it, but that's something that eventually I'll work into. But right now I'm just kind of practicing my skills with the timber.
She's learning to develop some muscle memory. She hasn't got that muscle memory yet, and so I advise her, why don't we start with a little timber and a little 6-channel Spectrum radio, and you can grow into that with these little planes, and then once you feel like, hey, I understand, all these things, then start with your helicopter, because those are a little bit more delicate.
Yeah, it's unless you're someone who flies, you don't think about the differences between helicopter and airplane. I mean, it's just the whole thing about trajectory and a flight path. The helicopter is waiting for commands, where the plane is following its nose, hopefully.
Well, I also wanted her to learn the field etiquette and the hobby etiquette. Like when you go to a field, there's just certain things that you do that you don't do. And so we didn't want to show up on the scene like Christmas noobs, is what my kids say. A Christmas noob is somebody that gets a new video game on Christmas and then gets online and tries to be a badass, and then they end up getting stomped.
I love it. The kid, I tell you what, if you ever want to learn how to do something, just look to the kids, because they know. The timber's a great choice, and I'll direct you to, there's these couple fools that made videos a long time ago on the Champ. It's on the Pilot Ryan and Captain Mike RC YouTube channels, our old thing, which I've been doing a little bit of, when I have time to make videos, motion still, first in line. I got, so B-roll or outtakes or night flights are the kind of stuff I'm putting up on our channel, but there's a playlist for like training videos. And check them out, because not that they're so great, but it's like the timber. What we always told people was to treat your little micro, once you get it figured out, give yourself a flight path, whittle this infinite sky into something manageable, so you actually have something to gauge yourself on. Because a lot of times you can just come home without having to fix it, and you're like, yay. But if you give yourself some skills to work on and things like that, you get a little bit more out of it. So once you get comfortable, treat that timber like it's a $300 plane, $400 plane, and because really they don't weigh enough to hurt themselves. It's easy to be willy nilly, but like every landing counts. Stick it, monkey pants. So that's what you got to put that on a shirt or something. Yeah. But stick 'em, monkey pants, and we'll have to get Mike on here and have him explain where that comes from, because it actually comes from somewhere. He spent a lot of time in the RAF, and it's something about the clothes they wear. I don't know, flight pants, whatever, G-suit, whatever. So that's cool. So the timber and helicopter. What helicopter is it? A Blade heli or one of the XK helis or what?
It's a Blade.
The Blade 270 or 230.
It's the Blade 230 SV2 or something like that.
It's a version 2.
Yeah.
I bought actually one myself, so we both have one now. And we bought little Blade 70s too, the little tiny one about the size of this thing. And we've been tooling around, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
just leave it at that. But we're getting there.
Yeah.
That's fun. What's funny? Sometimes you'll get a beginner plane. We've gotten beginner planes where they're so technologically advanced. Mike and I always joke that this thing makes you look like a beginner, even if you're not. Like, I don't know, you guys have to remember the Hobby Zone Sportsman with like it's like drone technology inside. You have to do a little dance and hold your breath and wink one eye and jump on one foot and turn around a bunch of times to calibrate like the compass and all this stuff. And if you screw it up, it's crazy. So helicopters and quads make me feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like I like when I'm in a plane, you heard me just say it. I'm in it, right? I just said in a plane. Like I'm not in it, obviously, but I feel like I'm in it, and I feel pretty good. But the helicopters, I've flown some of the XK ones, and nothing against them. It's me. Like it's fun to be scared though sometimes, you know. I mean, every time you made in a you know, anything, it's kind of spooky, and jets and things like that. It's good to be scared, and it always it's good for you to push that personal envelope of skill, so you actually can relax on you know, like for me, it doesn't matter what the wind's doing at this point. We've flown so much jet that warbirds and civilian planes and like all that stuff is like, whatever, bring it on. So it's nice to go back.
To go check out your video. It was on your BF 109, the warbird. That thing's got some small track to it. And I saw you in that thing, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, you know what? And it's so nice having people around, and because perspective, like you maybe you'll have tunnel vision on how to handle it. Like, so we did the FMS BF 109 2 different times. The first time we did it, it was just straight up flight review, and then I thought it was a good choice to do a gyro video on, because here we have a plane that flies great, but has this reputation for being a monster on the ground. Because skinny and tall and long nose, all the forces are exaggerated on that thing. And I was like, this was the Hobby Eagle Pro SE, brand new Hobby Eagle that we're carrying, is the first like gyros Motion was carrying. And I put one in that plane and just had a ball. I mean, it was all of a sudden it was not so scary, because we did the flight review and I just hung it up, because I was like, I don't want to smash this thing up, you know. And we kind of lucked out on the flight review that we didn't have a runway yet, and landing on grass, which kills you so quickly on any kind of runoff, rollout, whatever. So you can stick it. But talking about having 2 people, I go, Mike, how do I handle this one? Like, what do I do? I'm scared to death of this thing, because it's like super tall legs and skinny. And he's like, dude, just treat your landings like a touch and go. I was like, yeah, you're right. Bring it in hot enough to keep it on 2 and the tail up. And when that feels good, cut the power, fly the tail, and then pin it. And we rocked it. I mean, it worked out. So cool.
Very nice.
So you've been checking out that plane. Are you wanting one? Is that why? Are you shopping the 109? The Dynam one actually is really a sweetheart. Because
right now, I think that plane is still a little beyond me at this point. I got one that I'm going to grow into, and we're going to unbox it here, just so I can get you and George's input on it. But
okay.
I do love that plane, but it would be a shell queen for me right now until I get a little bit more comfortable landing a big plane like that.
Yeah, bigger does fly better, but they're also more expensive to fix, and they're kind of spooky sometimes. Yeah. I know you're flying Mustangs, and Mustangs can be kind of tricky too.
They
and
are.
If you're
so nose heavy.
If you're rocking the Mustang, I mean, that's a pretty good sign. I feel like
I love that new, like, I think it's like a 1450 millimeter and 1700 millimeter. They got a Mustang and it has the tail wheel going up in the back. Oh man.
Isn't that nice? Those are cool. Those fly good, because I mean, so do the little ones, the 48-incher and you just unboxed one. I think it's the Force one. But yeah, Mustangs, I feel like they only want a 2-wheel landing, or it's bouncy and ugly, weird. But stuff like a Spitfire or P40 and even a T6, if you just get lucky, will let you do both, a 3-pointer and a 2-wheeler. But I feel like anybody ever having trouble on the Mustang, I'm like, you got to put it on 2 and fly that tail, because it'll just get ugly. Yeah. And for me, the T6 is always a fight with the ground loop. It doesn't matter whose I have. It doesn't matter what company.
Corsair does that for me. I'll get the ground loop every single time. And I had to learn to do a takeoff, get some airspeed up first. Don't hammer the throttle. I even put a curve on my throttle on that one, so I won't accidentally hammer it all of a sudden.
Yeah, sometimes I mean, I have the same thing happen, especially after flying a bunch of jets. You get spoiled, you know, because before you start flying planes, you think that you just hit the throttle and it just goes. That's totally not what happens, and we know this at this point.
Right.
But with jets, it kind of is. So you get spoiled, and your right rudder game gets off. And so then I go back to flying like the T6, like I should be no sweat, and I'm like ground looping this son of a gun like crazy. So at that point, what I do is I'm like, it's a different kind of stick at monkey pants. I cram the right rudder, I kind of get in the throttle quick, and I get out of there just like kind of in a hurry before I can make a mess. Once the thing's up or rotates or whatever, get out of the elevator so you don't keep on. I mean, it's like hitting the brakes. You know, once you get out.
Have a bush landing jet. You know, they have bush tires on a jet for me.
One of these days. So I'm going to rip through these questions. I want to leave you time for what you've got in mind a little bit. And before I get to my everyday deal, every week questions, how did you two meet?
Well, we started working together, actually. We're both engineers, and I was looking for work and started a company here locally, and we became friends there.
Yeah.
And we've been friends basically ever since.
That's awesome. So you guys get a nerd out at work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that right?
We don't work together at the same place anymore.
Yeah, not
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But thank God, that place was a home.
That place was, it was very difficult for both of us, but yeah.
I was there as a contractor to do some panel wiring, building a control panel for machines, and she's there as a controls engineer. And I lasted about 4 months there, and I said, "This is great, but I gotta get out of this place."
Killing me. Terrible.
They suck, you know. So I left, and about a month later, I coaxed her to quit her job of 13 years there. Buy an RV, and then the two of us traveled around for a month, from one end of the country around the whole way around. And
All the way back, yep.
Man, what a month!
That was awesome.
We went everywhere.
That was a lot of fun. That was a great one.
By the way,
I
do you need an RV?
I need one. Why, you trying to get rid of one?
We're gonna paint it like George's egg.
So that explains kind of a lot, actually, too, because you said earlier something about 6 months that you've been at this as RC Safari. You know, obviously you've got some experience that goes way back with your dad, which is awesome, and I love the connection of that. And did you ever have airplanes on the radar at all for you, April, or did that kind of come because of Chloe?
Yeah, that came because of Chloe. My focus was always the video work, and I've always wanted to kind of develop a studio and do things like that. And then she said, "Hey, you know, I'm going to go out flying. Why don't you bring your camera out and film it?" And I said, "Okay, that sounds great." So just, you know, two of us just kind of clicked together on that, and watching her fly, it was really inspiring. So she's like, "Hey, why don't we go down and, you know, we'll get you a small plane, and, you know, at least after we're done filming, I can go up and kind of tool around a bit." So that's kind of how that all came.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Bring your credit card.
Yeah,
bring your credit card.
Bring your credit card. I was like, oh no.
That's fantastic. I like. I think everybody, they don't know, they wonder that stuff, but I think they do. You know, I always feel like the job of me and Mike has been to kind of be people's eyes a little bit, and I kind of like that with this show too. I want to ask people the things that none of us really think to ask when we're online, because we're just so busy about the thing. But I'll be real quick, and some of you guys have heard this before, but Mike and I met when I moved to South Bend 6 years ago. I was already, like I said, magazine stuff, but I was flying at this field, which happened to be like a mile from my house. When I bought the house, I didn't know it was there. And then I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me. There's a flying field like a mile from my house." Like, out in the country. The other side of the quarry is a field. I'm like, what? So that was cool. So I'm flying there after the babies go to bed. It was only a mile away. And this guy comes by and he's like, hey, I'm thinking about joining the field, the club. Do you care if I try to fly here? And I'm at the time the only dude with like foamies or electrics at all really at this field because it's the typical fare there. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess they won't mind. I mean, the thing is, you got to let me fly that. He had this big monster foamy 1600 millimeter P-47 with him. And I was just pulling his leg. I was just kidding. But like he let me fly it. And so that was the end. Like we've been together ever since. And he mentioned to me, hey, I want to, we taught a couple kids to fast forward a little bit. We taught a few guys to fly on the Champ with these lessons. And we thought that was, we were onto something. And so let's put that into video. And he's like, hey, you want to start a YouTube channel? I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And because I had tried to do one before when I was in Muncie with this is kind of the funny part, with my wife filming. And we didn't have any kids yet. It was just me and my wife. And we'd go out there and I was flying belly landers. This was 2009 or something. And there wasn't a whole lot really yet. Things were just going from nickel metal battery to LiPo. Stuff still had like brushed gearboxes. And so I would fly for like 2 minutes and she'd start snapping her fingers and like, come on, wrap it up kind of stuff. I was like, this isn't going to work. I mean, I'm going to fly till the batteries run out. This is before I knew about timers. This is when I just flew till the batteries like puffed, and you just fly till the battery dies and take whatever you get, which was the hard way to learn out there. The irony is that I was in Muncie with the AMA, but I'm out in the middle of a soccer field somewhere, beating myself up, learning how to fly with my dad, who had like some high wing thing, which was really easy. So after I crashed my stuff, I would fly his stuff, and it worked out pretty good. But yeah, so that's great. I was dying to ask you guys that. So that's cool. So I'm gonna let's keep ripping because I know you're dying to crack into your thing, Chloe, over there, which is cool. So
there for like a week, and I've been dying to open it. I haven't even opened it.
I'm dying to find out what it is. She hasn't even told me.
I've been waiting. I thought, someday, but then I thought one day, they're gonna stop making this thing. I'm gonna be really sad. And that's not gonna happen. Then the real one flew over me and my dad the other day when we were outside.
Okay.
And I thought,
she knows what it is.
That's a sign. And me and my dad had a little moment while we were flying out there, and I thought, this would look great next to his B-17. And I got it. I just got a breakdown, and I saved up and bought it.
Nice.
You know what? You said something on an earlier stream, and I think it was the stream where you were doing the unboxing of the F-105, and then cracked into the Lippisch a little bit. I think it was that one. You mentioned your desire to
have one.
Get one. Yeah, after you saw the quality out of the free wing boxes.
Yeah,
cool.
I have a second Thunder Chief down here because the first one is the one I'm learning on.
Well,
now I own two.
You know what? There's so much story that no one ever gets from us, too. We'll get the first one a lot of times and to work it up, which is just a blast for me. And I put in our first 105 badly and then reconstructed, repainted the nose, and still did, and that was just for picture day. And so I still had to do flight video with the thing. So I think I used an intro from the day I killed it, and then we went out again, and I'm flying one that had a leftover nose cone from the Mirage sanded down to fit where the nose used to be on the 105, and then painted up, and you never knew. But it's crazy.
I got it up one time. Remember, I got it up one time, and then I wanted to make some adjustments. I switched to my other transmitter and bound it, and guess what? something happened where things were backwards.
Yeah.
Threw it in the air, and it was like, uh-oh,
Oh, and when it's backwards on that, it's doubly backwards because everything does everything. Everything is the roll and everything is the pitch on those. So if you're wrong, you're just doubly screwed.
I didn't get it down.
Yeah, you
It
did.
wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
It was all the subsequent launches after that, well,
Yeah.
it's back
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, we're going to try it some more here. We'll never give up, but we definitely.
You know what I do on those? You guys, if you watch those videos, the Tossin Basit series or any hand launch thing, I do two things. I throw it like I won the Heisman Trophy for football, quarterbacking or whatever. I throw it hard and at a little bit of an angle. And I always give myself at least 2 or 3 millimeters of up trim, regardless of the book.
Yeah,
Because if it's climbing too much, then just get out of the throttle a little bit.
yeah.
But I refuse to throw any other way than right-handed. The underhand thing or what, I just can't do it. So,
I bought the wheel kit for it this time. I'm going to see if I can test
oh,
it
nice.
this time with my new one.
Nice.
How about the Lippisch? You flow that? You floon? Did you hear that? I said, did you floon?
I
Floon.
learned I flew it.
Did you prune it?
I did not flew it. I've got it, and I want to take it down to Hangar Day with George and Steve, and they're going to help me launch it. Because I've watched the guys here locally that have it, and every single time, even Steve, I watched Steve fly his at Nucky, and both times, both people, down in the ground it went. So I'm kind of like,
Oh,
but so I did see Steve at Nucky get it into there and fly it around, but that one's been modified. He's got that thing like bossed out.
oh yeah.
For
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So
I heard you say that actually on your show. Like I said, like Jimmy Fallon, I was checking you guys out before you came on, and you mentioned Steve's. He had cheaters cut into the bottom or something. Maybe that was the 105, but it sounds like Steve to hop it up though. But I think the Lippisch is one of the, it's kind of true to form too, because in real life it would have been like a Delta with the Elevon style setup.
right.
So it's a little bit honest.
I've never had an EDF before, never. So that's why I kind of wanted to go. And it was one thing to learn with an apprentice, but switching from EDF in such a small plane, and there's a lot of things that you need to know, like how to set your speed control, check the throttle range, and all these kind of things. And George has been working with me a little bit on that kind of stuff. And these are just beginner things that I just don't know that the average hobbyist takes for granted that they do know. And so that's why I didn't want to just waste the opportunity screwing around trying to get it and work through it. George showed me.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, some of these kids that would come by the field and want to learn how to fly and graduate from the champ into something else. I mean, we have one kid, I think we tried to tell him to get the apprentice next after he did really good on the champ. And we're like, okay, I mean, you're getting there, but stay high wing, get a little something bigger. And he bought FMS P40 instead. Didn't take our advice 100%. And I'm like, Holmes, come on. So we set it up. I set up the throws. I set up the radio. I set up the expo, did the whole thing, did the maiden flight, trimmed it out. Well, now he's at least got a chance because he'd have killed it. He still had trouble on the ground with the right rudder action and all, the wanting to go left. But this kid was kind of a natural.
This is all the stuff you got to know that you just don't know.
Yep. The Lippy, you'll love it.
Yes. Yeah.
You'll love the Lippisch. It's so well behaved. It's great. It's got everything you need from slow flight to fast flight. It's got more wing than any of the other 64 millimeters. So it's very gentle. It's nice. And it's ugly as sin, but it flies so good. All right. We are, well, this is where we do a moment from one of our sponsors and we take a drink of Pepsi.
Oh man.
And we mark half hour on the show. So I'm going to rip because I want you to be able to do your thing. This is a generic question that everybody asks. So I'm going to save it for last because it sucks. So let's go this one. Last one you flew. Last plane you flew. You can't BS on this one because it just is what it is unless you just have an awful memory.
I flew the mall.
The what?
The
The
mall.
mall?
The mall. The best of them all.
Yeah, the best
The
of them.
best. That's great. What about you? What about you, April?
It was the timber. Yeah,
Timber.
the UMX timber.
I love the timber partly because it flies great in both mini form and the regular, the bigger one. But more importantly, because it reminds me of the Ream brothers, the Timber Brothers. I coined them the Timber Brothers at Neffy a couple years ago. You probably saw those guys when you were there, Joe and Brad. They're great. They've been to like actually one Neffy they didn't go to, and I really miss them dearly. So the Timber Brothers, it's like a special place, and I think all of our hearts at this point. So what's the last one you fixed? This is a question I love. When I asked George, it was great because the last one he fixed was one I just shipped him because I killed the Mirage and I sent him the Carnage. So I knew the answer.
Is it what do you consider like fix? Like small things or totally like you totally have to glue this thing back
Crushed
together?
it.
Well, folks like drama. So you can go for the throat or you can just, tease us with a little minor fix.
It was my bush mule. Man, I about cried.
Yeah.
Oh,
On
man.
the ground. I wanted that thing for so long just because it had a little trap door in the back and I wanted to drop candy and parachute man around and be cool,
Yeah.
And
So did you fix it or did you just crash it so bad it was like a write-off?
no, I spent a couple of days gluing it all back together and putting it, everything back right and everything, but I totaled it and yeah, it's good now. I mean, flying really good, but I did something weird the other day when I was flying it. I had I hit my flaps and I was doing a low pass across the ground, maybe 2-3 feet off the ground, just showing off, the twin engines coming by and, we had people around and I hit the flaps because that plane is heavy and it needs a lot of flap just to get off the ground. So I had to accelerate real quick because the tree line was coming. So I thought, I hit the flaps and just balloon right on up. Well, I hit landing flaps and I forgot there's a down elevator mix and the plane went quickly right into the ground first because I was going real slow.
Yeah.
And I messed up and did a prop strike and broke my props and they went burying into the foam and now I got to order some more parts for it again.
Yes, that's awful. I that question's fun. Like, there's the last one you fixed, and then there's the last one that was so bad you just pulled the parts out of it and called it a write-off. Do you have one of those in mind?
Oh, yes. I did that, and I never showed it on there. I'll finally tell the tale. If you scroll way back in my page, I had a gas-powered decathlon. And I bought the decathlon for $250. It was a balsa kit already. It was somebody else's. They had it hanging in the, hobby shop. And I went in there and I said, you know what? I just need to learn to fly a gas plane again. I'll just buy this, throw some radio, playing it, blah, blah. Well, I got it up. I started flying it around. It was doing great and everything. We got some video.
Oh, yeah.
And I was getting cocky. And I got it far out, and then I think it lost signal. Something happened. It tip stalled to the side, and boom, it went in, and it was just toothpicks after that. The motor was perfect.
The motor was good.
Evolution engine, you got my vote every time. Down soldier.
So you played taps on that one. I asked that question because I had one of those the other day. So they, when I asked Anthony and Ben that question last week, they asked me the question back, and I said, ironically, the last one I fixed was, and ironically because it's a plane I should never have to fix at all, but the Piper Cherokee, because I flew the prop off of it when I ran out of 3-cell batteries. I put a 4-cell battery in there, which it says you can.
Yeah.
And the shaft slipped off the collet thing slipped off the shaft, got to the end, and just vibrated like crazy. Didn't come all the way off. And then the nose gear fell out. And that plane's such a doll baby. I was able to turn it around and land it anyway. So it's fine. I just need a new like shaft or motor. But that's the last one I need to fix. But the last one I wrote off was the free wing Bayhawk. And this is a good little story because if you go to my Instagram, actually, or anywhere on my stuff, because I splash it everywhere, there's a fun little, I call it the NTSB post-crash briefing or something like that with me and Mike on these free wing BAE Hawks. We were flying formation, both in the same planes, and we got into each other. And we didn't know who got hurt, but we both landed fine. And then Mike is missing a flap and a chunk of wing.
Oh no!
And we went up again. He flew it that way. He flew again that way with no flap or whatever. And I flew again too. My plane was fine, but when I was flying, I'm doing a knife edge one way, and I turn around and I'm like, let's do it the other way. I don't remember what I was doing, but I completely screwed the pooch and flew it really hard and fast into the corn, and it just shredded it up. So Mike needed a flap because I had, we hit each other. So I was like, well, Mike, just keep the wreck. You can get a flap out of this one and fix yours up. So I've got a 70 millimeter power system and a set of retracts without a home right now. But I completely wrote that one off.
You think we should?
Let's do it. Let's do it because we got fit. I mean, you're probably not going to get the whole thing done. And
no, I just want to take it out and
do it. Let's have fun.
It's kind of feeling like, on Christmas Day, when your parents make you come down and have breakfast first.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you just kind of look at everything.
This plays into the question. We can work this into my notes. So the last one you bought.
Is
question.
this one?
Let's see it.
All right.
Let's see
Right.
it.
George, give us a second. We'll set up and you fill the air with something.
Yeah, I'll keep blabbing or something. I mean, April can keep talking unless you need her. You need April, probably,
No.
Chloe.
Yeah, once she's set up, I'll change the camera over to her so we can see what she's
Look
doing.
at all this free wing motion stuff.
Hey, that's where it's at. You know what? Let's talk about social media a little bit again, which I think is how this all happens. That's how people find us. That's how you connect with them, and that's how, when you're not out at the field, you can just keep building these relationships. So you did a call out on your last live, I think it was, for folks to go to your YouTube channel, which you're trying to, build up and about to launch. What's the name of that YouTube channel? Can you post the link in George's comment section right now so everybody look at her? She's got a. Everybody loves it when the blue tape box shows up. But if you have a minute, anybody who's listening, if you already know how to find Chloe and April's RC Safari YouTube channel, post a link to that in George's comment section on this Tired Iron Aviation stream of RC Pilots Lounge episode.
If you go to YouTube and in the search bar, if you just type in RC Safari, you should see it.
Easy peasy. Okay. RC Safari, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. She's diverting tactics and spreading out her social media stretch to YouTube as well. I did a stream on YouTube the other day, and I thought it was a lot of fun.
Ready.
Hey, she's got the glasses on. You know what? I'm down here in the basement. I got my glasses in my shirt just because.
Well, you have to officially put the glasses on because you're now in Pilot Ryan mode.
Love it.
All right, switch the camera over. We'll
All right.
unbox this baby.
Camera.
Oh, we can't have this here. Oh no.
There you go.
There we go. Oh, there we are. This is the new baby. And man, I've been waiting for
It looks
this
like
thing.
you got a new set of fluorescent lights.
Up here?
Those are awesome.
Yeah, I built this room. It's actually got quite a few of these all the way down. It's great for lighting. You ready to help
It
me
is
with
good for
pork
lighting.
chops?
I'm
Are you
ready.
gonna film?
Yes.
All right. Can you dip down on this is the star right here.
There you
And
go.
you're right. Every time I see these boxes with the blue tape, I'm just like, all right. I love it. He's got the glasses on.
You need to smell the air in the box for our Slovenian brothers. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is the best part right here. You gotta be very careful not to cut through all the way in there.
So while Chloe's getting into that box, stop me anytime, Chloe, when you're ready to unfurl the goods. I just want to thank George for helping us out here. He's been helping me host this on his Tired Iron Aviation page for 3 shows now. And I really appreciate that, and all of you at the Tired Iron Aviation group for checking this out. I do want to say something, too, about Facebook, actually. So obviously there's more going on for me than just the Ryan Ramsey Facebook. Any of you guys have requested friend requests on the Ryan Ramsey personal? I love you. Don't be mad at me because I don't accept you. I just don't, I work so hard on the Pilot Ryan Instagram and YouTube channel and Facebook page and this little podcast thing we're doing that I just don't put any of my RC effort into the Ryan Ramsey page at all. So I would rather have you come over and find me on Instagram or something, and I'd connect with you every day. Hey, check it out, B24D/J Liberator. Pilot.
Finally.
Check it out.
Oh yeah. And we bought the new batteries for it. We already got the batteries. Got my roaring top batteries. It takes 2 5,000s, I believe. 2 of them.
Yeah, it'll accommodate a handful of packs. Is that what you have? Is that what you have? A couple 5,000s?
Yeah, I bought 4 roaring top 5,000 batteries. I don't know if you can see
Nice.
those.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Hey, I had her get the Roaring Top 5,000 free sale because,
Oh,
force
yeah.
force sale is just way overkill on B24. And with those batteries, I wish Motion would come out with some larger free sales, but the Roaring Tops are really good batteries. I'm getting 15 minutes flight time and still coming down with about 3.8.
Oh man,
That's amazing.
I
And
can't get
and
it open.
we've talked about this before, George, where it's just got a lot of power. So I think a lot of guys are probably flying the B24 on 3 cell now. So that's what you've got, Chloe. George has told me you got 2 3-cell 5,000 roaring tops,
Yes.
and he's pushing 15 minutes, which
I limit my throttle range to 80%. I think that's why some people were breaking clocks early on. They were having some ground strikes and probably caused some little micro fuses. And when they spin those things up on 4S at full throttle, it's just
Yes.
more than the prop can take, and it lets it go. But
that makes sense.
I mean, I might crash mine tomorrow, but I've not broken
Whoa.
the prop yet on it.
So you're getting good flight time out of it, and part of it is because you have the throttles back a little bit. I'm really careful about flight time. Just because we're talking about getting 15 minutes doesn't mean that anybody with a new one should try that right away. Definitely always be conservative and then milk it.
Yeah.
No, I did buy some extra propellers. I'm wondering if they shoved them in the box here. Do they normally put them in the box for you?
Yes, they do. That is we talked about that years ago. It just makes sense for them to, if they can, put it in the box.
I did buy, against George's better judgment, I did buy the extra, the suspension landing. I'm probably not going to put it on right away because he said you can, you need to figure out the plane when not get ground strikes with it dipping and all this, but our field is really bumpy. So I bought it just in case. So I'm wondering if they threw that in here.
I
Yes.
I would put money that they did, because if there's room in a box, they're going to do that, because that way you get everything all at once, and they can save on shipping and stuff. We can't see a thing on our end, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
You can see it on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, can you?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to. Nice. Look at that. I did put the suspension on mine, but it's a nice sturdy plane with or without it.
It's just so beautiful. I mean, this is like the most nicest plane I own now. Like, and this is like one of those bucket list things. Like, I want it so bad. And it's in the Witchcraft design. And
yeah,
what sealed the deal for me was, you know, I saw George's, you know, in person, and he's got both of them. But last week, the real Witchcraft was in town in Akron, Ohio, and it was here for one of the shows, and it actually flew over me and my dad while we were out there flying model airplanes. I could have ran up and hit it with my model airplane. It was so low, and it was really loud. And I was just like, oh, man. You know,
that was the last straw, right? That was the last straw. You went and pulled the trigger right away, didn't you?
I couldn't help myself. I was like, this is it. My dad's got the B-17, and now I've got an equal adversary, and we can do formation flying and stuff once he gets his together.
That B-24 is super nice, and you know what's amazing about it is how big it is. It's I was able to fit it without taking the wings off in my vehicles, because it's not got a super long fuselage. So, like, depending on what you're driving, you might luck out and be able to not have to disassemble it. But, you know, if you do, it's got the ribbon connection, so it's really easy. Considering all that's going on, it's a piece of cake to assemble at the field if you have to. And actually, I put lights on mine since I've done the work on it, and I'm ready to take it up again. I have the silver one that's been in a tree and retrieved, and my silver one has been through a mess, and I just refuse to paint it. It looks battle weary, and I'm going to keep it that way.
Oh, I did find props. They're in here. I got an extra set just in case.
The struts are probably in that piece of paper, Chloe.
Oh, okay.
Brian is really good about taking care of that stuff. He's my hero.
Yes.
I get those packages from him, and I want to jump up and down.
Look how badass these are, April. Like, feel them. They, like, actually move and everything. I feel it. Like, it's amazing. Oh, wow. Look at that.
The suspension?
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
You know what's funny about suspension is I feel like it's a dream come to reality. Like, I remember early days dreaming about suspension on foamies, thinking it was never going to happen. And then look at it now. It's just awesome.
They're so light. These are like machined aluminum. They're just beautiful.
You know what's
plastic? I thought they were going to be plastic. They're actually metal.
They are metal, and they're exactly like the A10, except for the strut pin is a little bit smaller in diameter than the A10, but otherwise it's the same wheel size and fantastic struts that we use on the big Mamma Jamma A10. So those things are very robust.
Oh, wow. That fuselage is so light. Feel how light this is, April. Oh, I've got to make my turret turn. I'm going to put the servos in there and make my turrets turn.
Wow, look at that. That is amazing.
Look at
Isn't that nice?
There's like a whole forum I saw, like, guys customizing this. I want to do mine. It's going to be too beautiful to fly, but I'm going to fly it anyway. I want to be part of the big bird club. Oh, big warbirds now.
You know, bigger does fly better.
Yeah, it does.
Everybody says that, and no one gets it until they do it, and then they're like, "Oh, I get it. I got a box. I got a box here too. I'm trying to open. I got a box from George Baker today.
Oh yeah.
Go figure. Yeah, I'm trying to open it up so I can show you what it is.
You need to show that shirt, and maybe he'll watch the replay. I haven't seen him online, but maybe Chris will get to see it. So I'm gonna switch to you now, Ryan.
Okay. I saw him online. Yeah, because we're gonna wrap it up. I saw him online actually today on my Instagram, talking about, I think, checking us out tonight, and I think he even said something about the shirts.
Oh,
But-
man, I can't wait to get
So
this.
check it out, everybody. I got a big monster scale size prop for my E-Flight P47 from George that I'm going to use after.
I'll put this in there.
It's like Christmas for everyone. Man, that thing's massive, George.
We'll go back to this and
13-inch.
I'll put this back in here.
Here you go. Big, massive prop. This is scale size for the E-Flight 48-inch Razorback P47. Thank you, George. And I got some Tired Iron Aviation stickers. That's awesome. As soon as I do the work, you know me, I got to do the work stock out of the box first. And then I get to customizing. I will probably have lights on this one. I'm definitely repainting the Kansas Tornado, I think is what it is, as soon as I get a chance. But you know what's great about starting with a silver paint scheme is if the paint starts flaking and stuff, it looks legit anyway. George, thanks for that prop. Folks, we are getting there. It's like 4 minutes till we turn into pumpkins. George,
Show
thanks
the
again for go ahead, George.
Show the shirt.
Okay. So George told me the other day that he's got a fan who's on the Tired Iron Aviation Facebook group who, oh, cool, man. You guys, I don't know how to say his name. He's from France. But that's his name right there. It's like Chris, D-U-C-H or something. And he wanted George to send him a shirt and have everybody sign it. So it's hard to see, but George signed it, Steve signed it, Running Bear signed it, Steve Black has signed it. I'm going to try to show you. And then George sent it to us because Chris wants me and Captain Mike to sign it. So we're going to, I don't know if he's watching or not. It's not quite a surprise because he asked for it, but we're going to make it a big deal. We're going to film signing it. And there it is. I don't know if you can see the signatures, but that's totally cool. We got fans all over the world, and so does George, who went in on this Tired Iron Aviation network of fellowship. So, guys, with that, we're getting super close to signing out. There's April back. Chloe's stepping in. I want to, you know what? An hour goes super fast. You want to tell people, do you have any plans for building that thing live or anything? What are you doing, Chloe? You going to just save that for another day?
I think we're going to save it for another day. I'm thinking about coming down to one of George's hangar days and maybe doing a ceremonial takeoff. And
Nice.
I want to get, I love the planes that I have, but I feel like I'm ready for that next step. And, Steve Hodges, when I was at Neffy, he gave me his F-86 Sabre. Been practicing
I saw that. Nice.
And, that was like heart pounding when that got up there. That's adrenaline every time. So, I feel like this is like the next level for me. And I was looking at it. I'm still geeking out over the quality. It feels like it's not like any promo product. It's like so dense, but it's nice.
It is very nice. The fit and finish, the way it goes together is super nice. If you need any help, of course, you have George in the community. I know a guy who did a build on one of these, I think. So there's videos out there. But I know I heard you talking about a Tiger Cat too. That thing is a doll, baby. Keep us all posted with your progression in the world of foamies. You guys are doing a great job. I think everybody's loving watching what you're doing. Everybody go to RC Safari YouTube channel and subscribe there. Hit the bell for notifications so when they do upload, you'll get notified. In the meantime, I don't think you guys should. I think you don't just go to YouTube from Facebook. Do it in addition to go wherever people are so they can consume what you're doing because what's fun is the journey, right? So, guys, it's episode 3 of RC Pilots Lounge. We're wrapping it up. George says he turns into a pumpkin at 10. It's 10 o'clock. An hour goes so fast. thanks for listening. Check out, if you don't want to watch this stream, you can listen to it tomorrow on the Anchor app, which is cool, and also see it on my YouTube channel as well as the Tired Iron Aviation Facebook page. Be nice to each other. Keep the white side down. We're out of here, girls. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Salute. Thanks so much for being on the show. See ya.